Abby, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll get started. I'll call today's meeting to order. Jen, would you do roll call, please?
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Len Tooties,
Here.
Jennifer Finley,
Here.
Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Terry Pitts, Bing Matt,
Here.
Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
James Steele Senior.
Left, Jen. As always, could we start the day out with a prayer? Len, can I ask you to lead us in a prayer? Thank you, Len. Okay, first order of business, we have minutes from the 17th, I believe.
Motion to approve the August 17th minutes with corrections.
Motion by Len to approve the August 17th minutes with corrections, second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Okay, we have today's agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Jennifer?
I'd like to do an update.
Martin?
I have a request and open.
Okay. Any other additions? Jennifer? 2 walk-ins? Okay. Any other items? Motion by Terry to approve today's agenda with the additions, second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous? All right, go ahead, Jennifer, real quick.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to give an update that Jimmy and I attended the Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders Health Conference last week on August 15th and 16th in Billings. And it just reminded me of a few things. I went to a presentation on the importance of nutrition in treating depression, anxiety, and addiction. And it was really interesting. And the presenter talked about how 90% of people addicted to opioids are victims of trauma and how important it is to address trauma in addition to nutrition and dealing with all these other issues and how they're all connected. And then I also went to a presentation, or I guess listened to a presentation about alternative medicine. And I'm hoping, I would like for tribal health to include questions about alternative medicine when they send out a survey to all of their participants, asking for what services they would like. I would like them to include questions about whether or not people would like access to a naturopath, a chiropractor, and acupuncture. And I thought overall it was a good conference. I was substituting for Len, but I did get some good information from it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer, for that Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I attended the Plains meeting. It was very well attended. I guess the only update on that is just the Kansas Prairie side is pretty well protected. Our crews are doing a great job protecting that area, and so I think it was streamed online. It was a little more raucous than most fire meetings, but you know, it was a little crazy. And then the other question I have is there's a disc golf tournament in Kalispell this weekend, Whitefish, and they're looking for sponsors, and it's $100 platinum sponsorship that I was requesting for them. So Rick said basically just get the consensus of council on that, and went to I'll sandwich that in between the other fire meeting, Arley, Big Knife. They're doing a great job down there. They'll come give an update this evening or this afternoon, but yeah, really good to see the people out there safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin, and thanks for attending the fire meetings. It's always good to have council representatives there and have that face at these community updates. I support outdoor recreation whenever possible. Every time we put our name out, there's a win for us. So I would agree with the $100 sponsorship for a tournament. Is anybody else consensus? Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Carol and I went to Elmo, Mike, Sunday morning. Mike Kenmill did an honor song for everybody throughout the United States that's in fire situations. He was trying to broadcast it everywhere, even for, into Hawaii and all that. Did a great job. The fire crews were moving out, but they appreciated his honor song. I think it was really a good thing to honor these firefighters and keep them safe. It's a tough job. Remember back in the day, and everybody fought fire. It's a hard work. But it's very important. And I just want to thank them.
Thank you, Jimmy. Consensus of council for the request for donation? Yeah, maybe, yeah. Show of hands. All right, get a majority. Yeah, go ahead, Jen, or Martin.
Sorry, just one other thing, if I may. Shadow Devereaux, I think we all received an email from Michelle Mitchell about PIR Day and doing a video of council. He's trying to schedule, so if you could respond back to him or that email from Michelle about that. They have a pretty tight turnaround, so to get all 10 of us, he'll need to schedule us probably starting as soon as possible. So I'll forward you the email again, I think, just to get it, in your inbox.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I know that brought that up at the chairs meeting, and he's trying to do that tomorrow, I think.
He's
Jen,
gonna do it on Wednesday, Thursday, this week and next week.
starting tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good, Jennifer?
How many tribal members compete or participate in this disc golf thing, approximately?
I don't know. I mean, there's other Indians that play. I don't go out and keep track. I mean, I know I could probably look at the names, and there's at least 4 or 5 out of the participants. Sometimes there's 90 participants, sometimes there's 30. So it's, for that and for our population, it's pretty good, pretty good number. We have a disc golf course across the highway that, we have at the college, and we're putting one down in Dixon, and so tribal members are starting to play more. So it's definitely a growing sport. It's a new sport to a lot of people, so that's kind of the motto of disc golf is grow the sport. And so the more encouragement, the better. The more our names out there, the better. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. I know we had there's a local group, and they were asked, that's how we ended up with the course at the college. And so we were looking for places to put them. And they all came in, and it was quite an organization of disc golf players here. We were trying to reclaim the old part of the landfill in the future of the county up by the dam as a real premier spot we can put in a disc golf course. But it's a low cost sport that you can get into. Although when you become a fanatic at Martin's level, you can spend a lot of money on a lot of discs, and it's amazing. It's like sets of clubs, and they have a disc for each alignment. It's pretty impressive the way that they work it. But it's been a sport that's been around since here in Montana. The first disc golf course that I knew of was in Paddy Canyon in Missoula, and that was nearly 45 years ago. So it's a sport that's been around for quite a while. Yeah, a little different than throwing the frisbee with your dog, but it's pretty fun.
And full disclosure, I've been playing every tournament that we've sponsored. And I always register first and then get asked for the sponsorship next, so it doesn't look like I'm doing anything, that benefits me. And it does benefit you. It's lots of exercise and gets to be outside, and camaraderie, and rural communities are really supportive community that welcomes out everyone, and diversity of it's great. So if you ever want to go play, I got lots of discs you can borrow.
Thanks, Martin. All right, we'll do our first walk in. Peter, come on up. Good to see you. It's next. Push the button on your mic there, Peter, so Abby can hear you.
Pesquex, Peter, Matt, and Gabrielle Blatt from Senator Tester's office here. Just hoping to do a quick check-in to see if there's any issues or priorities for us, and then just to kind of share updates on both sides. So just kind of came in informally today just to see if there's any issues right off the bat, and just kind of to touch base.
Anything from council? Well, the res is burning up, so we certainly support any effort that, or we would hope that the senator's office would support any effort to bring in federal resources to bear here, whether it's FEMA or other resources that we utilize during this fire activity. And then, resiliency in the future and how we can preparedness in the future is key for us. So I know the senator has been at the forefront of so many things that have been beneficial to Indian country. And so we're appreciative of that. He's leading the charge in many things. So I think if we had something specific, Peter, you're going to hear from us because we know he's a go-to person for us. So I want to thank you for that. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Peter and Gabriella, I want to thank the office for its help on the extension for rulemaking on the Progress Act. I'm hoping we can get something happening in the House fairly soon. So thank you for that.
Yeah, yes, sir. We appreciate that. We appreciate the good words, and just to let you know, we've had a representative at every fire meeting up to this point. I've been going to the ones, made it up to one up in Elmo, but I've been up at all the Arley fire meetings, including the one yesterday. And then when I can't make it, we have some representatives from our Kalispell office that attend those as well. So we've been in those discussions, and of course are here to help if you guys need any assistance with federal resources.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, thank you so much for coming here. And I think I would just always advocate for any resources for mental health and addiction. I just think in Montana, there's a definite lack of adequate mental health care, but specifically on the reservation. Our jails are filled with people who have mental health issues who shouldn't be in jail. They should be in some sort of mental health care, but we just don't have the resources. And there's a lot of people not getting any mental health services. So just advocating for that. Thank you.
Just Gabrielle and Peter, the one thing that there's a timeline that's about ready to end that President Biden and Prime Minister Trudeau set forth for the tech mining operations in the headwaters of the Kootenai River in Canada. And so I think we have 4 weeks remaining for an outcome for that. And as you know, we've promoted through our tribes, Kootenai Tribe of Idaho, along with the Kootenai tribes in Canada. We've provided our own reference request for the International Boundary Treaty Commission, and then also a solution to include Indian tribes in the answer or the solution to this water pollution in the Kootenai River. So any added pressure that Tesla's office can do to make sure that our State Department and Canadian Global Affairs come to something here quickly, at least recognize our request would be great. That would be super.
Yeah, definitely. And first of all, let me say, good to see all of you again, / meet some of you for the first time in person. Senator Tester let me come back for the month of August to spend it in Montana. So it's been good to just be around Montana. So yeah, thank you for having me today. And yeah, definitely hear you guys all loud and clear on all of the requests, especially the international issue. That's something we can definitely look into. Any added pressure that we can do. And then for the Progress Act, yeah, super happy that whatever issue it was having cleared up and it was able to be able to grant the extension. And so excited to see how CSKT contributes to the extended rulemaking. And yeah, definitely hear you guys loud and clear on the mental health and addiction resources, something that we can look into. And related to that, right before the Senate left for August recess, we were able to pass out the Interior Appropriation Bill. And within that, we are very happy to see that Senator Tester was able to secure advance appropriations for IHS for the second year to help IHS just with budget certainty and to avoid any lapses. And what's next? The Senate and House have to come together to agree on a final appropriations bill, but we are very optimistic about where Indian programs stand. We didn't see any cuts across the board, just small increases because of the budget discussion and deal that happened earlier this year. But for the most part, Indian country is going to see continued strong funding. So we're very happy about that. But yeah, just to echo Peter, and Peter does a great job of keeping on the loop already. But anything you guys need, feel free to reach out to Peter or I, and we will get on the case.
Thank you, Gabriella. The one thing that I would mention, because I did see something uniquely positive, this has to do with just trying to get, environmental justice or equality through funding for Indian country. And that's the Land and Water Fund. It looks like there's an initiative to provide a set aside for land and water just for tribes. And that's a good move forward. That is a tremendous move forward. We've been advocating for that kind of treatment, equal treatment as states through all the land and water, Pittman Robertson, Dingle Johnson, Wallop Bro funding, where we pay the taxes on sporting good equipment and gasoline taxes, and then we're not in the formula to have that money come back to where people are recreating or spending their resources. So that equal treatment as states needs to be fixed, and it's been an oversight since the creation of those federal acts. So anytime we do that, be great. Our Wildlife Restoration Act, RAWA, Restoring Wildlife in America Act, does include funding for Native American tribes. That's a response to the lack of Pittman Robertson, Wallop Bro, and Dingle Johnson funding, and that's still alive there in DC. So we would appreciate the senator's support of that bill.
Yeah, definitely. Something I can look back into when I get back to DC. And then the tribal LWCF funding. So that didn't make it into the appropriations bill. There was a lot of just uncertainty of how to run that per se. But it definitely did start the conversation. And so I think that in years coming, we'll see a more positive response to that. So good to know that the tribe is in full support.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That definitely. But probably more painful is the fact that we're paying taxes on equipment, guns, ammo, and that money's not coming back to our landscape. as it should, as intended. And that's even more of an insult in land and water, far more than land and water. So we can fix federal aid and sport fishing and wildlife, the old Dingle Johnson, Pittman Robertson, Wallabro funding, that would be great. So thank you. Anything else from council? Oh, Jennifer?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I know, we're starting to look at our budget for next year, and we have a BIA school, Two Eagle River School, here on the reservation. And the last I remember that their language programs are funded by tribal dollars. They're funded by us because the BIE is not funding their language teachers. So part of the reason that we have to revitalize our language is because of federal policy that tried to terminate us. But I think that the BIA should, if you can advocate for them to allocate more funding to fund language teachers, I think that's really important. And that's such an important part of Two Eagle River School here on the reservation is the revitalization of the Salish and Kootenai language and their culture teachers that they have there. So I just want to always advocate for that. And then I'm not sure where the legislation is on the Truth, Healing, and Reconciliation Act. I don't know where that is, but, just hoping that the records for the boarding schools get released. And, there's still a lot I don't know here about the Ursulines on the reservation. If we know exactly how many kids went there, what their names are, who didn't make it home, I think those records are really important for the public to have. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for bringing both of those issues up. So yeah, we are a big supporter of native language in the office. And last year, actually, we were able to sign 2 bills into law that have to do with native language. So one bill had to do with the Department of Education compiling a report of just how many native languages are spoken, what's the rate that they're being spoken at, what kind of schools are teaching these languages. And so they're doing that report right now. And what that report will lead to is actually the second bill that was signed into law, which is to establish a Native American Language Resource Center at the Department of Education. And what this will do is compile resources and best practices for teaching native languages to just in like a national kind of like guidehouse for tribes and schools to utilize. And so we're super excited to see that get underway. I need to ask Department of Ed for a update on where they are with the surveying. But in that, there have been some talks about doing bills that have to do with actually funding Native teachers to then teach these languages. That is something that other senators are looking at. And when I brought this up that, oh, like Senator Tester wants to do this too, they politely told me to back off. But I'll definitely, as I get more updates in that, send it along to tribal council. And then in terms of the Truth in Healing Reconciliation Act, that was passed out of the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs a few months ago, I believe, and it's awaiting a full vote on the Senate floor. But that will do a lot of the important work that you mentioned. So it establishes a commission to look at the effects of Indian boarding schools on Native cultures then and now. And one of the most important things that it does for the commission is give them the power to FOIA from churches and schools. And so it will help you guys get these records that you guys need to just establish like what fully happened, what happened to these ancestors and everything. And yeah, so we are pushing for that to get a full vote on the Senate floor, and we'll definitely be in contact when it does. But we are super happy that Senator Tester voted for it out of the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. But yeah, thank you.
Any other items from council? Gabriella, thank you for coming out, really appreciate it.
Yeah, this might have been the worst thing that the senator could have done because now I don't want to go back to DC.
I don't blame you. Peter, thank you, sir.
Well, that much to you guys, and I appreciate you letting us come in and share some of the stuff we're working on and share some of the issues and priorities from your guys' side. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. Jen?
So I don't know if you want to do fire update or a walk-in executive first. Fire update first and then
We
go
can
into
fire update.
executive.
Fire personnel, come on up.
Good morning.
Morning, Shane.
So just want to take this opportunity to introduce some of our incident commanders that we have here on the reservation helping us out with some of these fires. And just wanted to start real quick with, quick background that if you remember the last time we were in here, we had Mike Barron's team and he was overseeing the Big Knife Fire, Mill Pocket, and Narada fires as one entity. And he took his team and split it into two and had the main camp up at Elmo Powwow Grounds and a spike camp, very large spike camp at the Arlee Powwow Grounds. And so that team was big enough to do that. It's a big horsepower team. And as we got rain and things slowed down, we started to get a handle on some of these fires. Working with the CSKT Division of Fire, we agreed to downsize. Once that team timed out, we agreed to downsize to 2 Type 3 teams instead of 1 big complex team. So we have 2 Type 3 teams, 1 stationed out of Elmo Power Grounds that has the Narada and Mill Pocket incidents, and then 1 at the Arlee Power Grounds with the Big Knife fire. And I'll just do a quick introduction and let these guys take it from there. And I'll start with Rob Burney on my left, who is the IC for the Narada and Mill Pocket fires.
Good morning. Yeah, Robert Burney. I got here right after the initial lightning storm and immediately kind of took over the Mill Pocket fire, and we got a good handle on that within a week or so, and that set me up pretty good for coming in and taking over the Narada Mill Pocket combined thing when the team was ready to pull out of there. So been up there for a while and very happy to report that both the Narada and the Mill Pocket fires are 100% contained as of last night. So that rain really helped us seal the deal on the Narada fire. I mean, we were feeling really confident about it before that. We had been tested with wind 2 days in a row, really strong gusts out of the south, one day all day long, and the next day we got them out of the north. So both ends of the fire were, we got tested really well and everything stayed in place, and there's been no perimeter change or growth since it's been, well over a week now when the team was here. So feeling really good about that. It's the Naradas at 20,300 acres, and we expect it to stay there. The Mill Pocket ended up at 1,800 acres. I think combined we're at, we're still under 9 million, 8.7, 8.8 million for total cost on those 2 incidents. Our efforts now are, we've been currently backhauling all the equipment off the hill, pulling a lot of hose and a lot of pumps and a lot of folded tanks, getting everything out of there with, seeing no more use for it, making sure all that stuff's cleaned up and leaving behind the fire as it was previously with a lot of patrolling, monitoring, and rehab repair stuff going on right now. We currently still have 6 excavators and 2 road graders that are taking on that work, and expect that to be going on, for the next week and a half approximately. And with the total, we're probably going to be down to between, 30 and 40 folks tomorrow. We started out with a little more today, and the final package moving into the next week and a half will look like 20 to 30 people that are going to be completing the repair work. This morning will be our last day at the Elmo powwow grounds. Ronan will be supporting the rest of the folks from here on out. And a lot of those are local folks, so we're, our biggest outside resource right now is a 20-person crew that has about a week left before they time out, and that should work really, really well for us as far as how this has been winding down. And the rest of our demo, we were able to, it was a smooth transition from the previous team. They handed us over, well over close to 400 people with that organization, but it's been smooth and steady since they've left, getting all those folks out and need reassignments or days off or whatever those folks got going. So with that, I think that's about all I have. Any questions for Narada, Mill Pocket?
Well, good job, Rob, and the whole team up there, Any questions from council? Yep, Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to comment, obviously, we always appreciate you guys being on site. I did have one complaint from a tribal member that when you do your backburns or burnouts, if you could just do it on the other side of the fence, because they burned out 55 miles worth of fence, and he said it just wasn't understanding why they just couldn't start it on the other side of the fence instead of burning the fence out.
Yeah, we'll definitely take that into consideration. And a lot of times, the need to have equipment there, such as engines or using a already existing road, might have been what they were burning off of, and inability to perhaps get the proper support with water apparatus and things might not have been an option in that case. But I really can't speak to, what happened in that particular area. But
Ron?
Yeah, Terry, I appreciate the comment. We've always had some discussions about fire tactics and the things that we do employ. And so I think if I could get with Terry and just kind of, after discuss where that's located and see if I can dig into that, Terry, because you're exactly right. If there's any opportunity we have to save pasture land, hay land, fence lines, power lines, homes, we look to do that. So yeah, I'd like to time with you, Terry, if you don't mind after this and find out what's going on specifically, but I appreciate that comment.
Hey, also, I wanted to throw in a huge shout out from all the firefighters on the drum circle the other morning. That was a really moving, powerful deal for a lot of folks, and that meant a lot to the wildland community. Videos going viral and all the wildland fire groups, and a lot of shares and a lot of great comments on that. That was a really neat deal for us. Thanks for that.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I had a question for Ron. Good exercise.
What's up, Jimmy?
Ron, I had a question from some of the people up there by Sheila Matt's place.
Yeah.
They had a camp set up out there, and then the question was when the fire come over the top, that they abruptly moved people out of there, and they were just wondering why the quick change. That's the question I got. I don't know.
Okay, so I did talk to Sheila direct. I called her. My days are kind of running together. I think it was 2 days ago I talked to Sheila Matt. So initially when that fire came across, I sent some pictures to the council, Tom and Lynn.
Yeah, got him.
Martin, just how that fire was presenting itself over the top of the Camas Prairie, right to her property, basically aligned perfectly. Frontal assault on a crown fire. So our first thought process was to set up structure protection around her home, get her free in any of those homes that were immediately in threat. And no one in Sanders County was strapped, I'm sure they were going up McGinnis Creek and all the other things and trying to get people out of Paradise and doing those types of things. We just took it upon ourselves to help that situation. The next morning, Only held people there all night. The next morning, we went back in and did an analysis with, you know, my team. We went up and hopped on UTVs and we rode all the way across that and we were looking at opportunities to dig line on our ground. We moved, Adam Westerman, our tribal cats, they all went over there and we were positioned. So we set up a staging area at the school, Camas School, and then pulled the cats into to engage. And Shane had met with all the agency administrators and they signed a delegation of authority, turning that fire over to a team, to an incident management team. At that point, I gave them our resources. I said, if you want us to do something, you just let us know and we'll do it. You guys want us to dig in somewhere, anchor somewhere and push line, we'll do it. And they're at such a early stage in that fire, they were afraid to commit to anything, not knowing what it's going to look like. Not to dig a bunch of line that has no bearing on the final outcome. Not knowing that we're gonna get this rain. So many variables, right? So that's how that played in. So Sheila called me like, hey, what's going on? Why isn't anybody doing anything? I was explaining to her what's going on. The team's been reaching out to Katie McDonald to make sure there's nothing in the way for them to damage with suppression. So we've got time with the rain to actually make some decisions to try to protect all tribal cultural resources and make good decisions on where we're putting those lines. So right now we're working with that team. Travis Pfister, who used to work in Plains, is working with Katie McDonald, and they're identifying where we can push line to try to protect the trust assets of our tribe. And I know the public looks at things and goes, well, what are you guys doing? Really what we're trying to do is protect your home right now until we get better intelligence and know where we're going to dig that line. I hope that explains it okay. This is what she told me. There's a hotshot crew around my hay bale, my hay barn, so I know it's not going to burn. I like that. And there's a bunch of them staged at the Camas School, so I know it's not going to burn. I like that. And I could just feel the heat in her, you know, she was upset. And we try our best. Yeah. And communication to the public is huge. And that's something we try to be as open and honest to our public as we can be. Any other questions on that one? Strat Ops meeting today at 5:30 over at Plains High School, and we got Katie going, Daryl Claremont, I'm sure Shane will be there, and they'll be looking at that River Road East fire and making some decisions on where they're gonna go with line construction.
Well, you know, my fire days are long over, but I did my part, just so you guys know. CT bothered me about this. CT bugged me about this earlier. I washed the bus Saturday morning and hurricane rain came right after that. So thank you, you know, it's okay. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, just want to, you know, thank Rob for what he's done here the last couple weeks, week and a half. And, you know, as he's heading out the door, his last days today or tomorrow, but appreciate everything he's done for us and, you know, big lift that he did and he's given us a good glide path for the Division of Fire to take that back over. And then quickly, I'll introduce Brad and Caleb. They're the ICs for the Big Knife Fire. So we're looking at the other half of what the bigger team initially had, and I'll let them take it from there.
Good morning, Caleb Olander, IC trainee, Brad Bergman, IC actual. We're here with Northern Rockies Team 8. I wanted to say that we're honored to be invited to help with the Big Knife. I grew up in Kalispell and the team recognizes the significance and importance of the Jocko primitive area, and we realize there's a lot of different perspectives on how to manage a fire in that area. We feel lucky to be working with Shane and Ron so closely to come up with some objectives. Right now, we showed up right after the first rain event when the fire woke back up, made another big push. So now that we're getting this second rain event, we're aware of what can happen as it starts to warm up again later this week. The fire is not out. Brad will give you some statistics on what it's doing, but yeah, we're here with a full team, and we have 221 people on the fire still assigned, and we're working diligently to use these rains to get ahead of it. Right now, we have some pretty secure line along the western edge of the fire, right there east of our lee, which was the main concern right away, to protect those structures. And we're working to protect some other resources, including the lookout and some bridges along the east side further in the primitive area. But we still have 10 days or so left with our team, and we feel pretty comfortable where we're at right now with this lull in activity. But yeah, definitely the fire's still burning up there, and it's sure to come back alive a little bit as these temperatures come back up. And Brad, do you want to speak on some of the size?
Yeah, so good morning. I'd like to echo Caleb on things he said. It's a feel honored and privileged to be here. I've very beautiful country. I've only been able to travel through and not spend any time here. So I'm glad I finally was able to spend some time in the area. So right now we're looking at 13% contained, approximately 221 people with a cost of $10 million so far. As he mentioned, the rain, it's not unfortunately, it's not a season ending. It's just a season delaying event. We had anywhere from a little over 1/3 of an inch of rain to about a 1/2 inch of rain. Our fire behavior analyst is heading to the Jocko lookout. We had an additional rain gauge set up there, so hopefully we'll see what we got up on that higher country. Far as tactics go, they've been really remaining the same. We're focusing on the values at risk on the west and the south side with the private land and the structures. Agency Creek, we did remove a hose lay there from the Craig Hotshots. We're in there working that, and it's pretty cool. So they felt comfortable removing that hose lay, and we'll remain in there monitoring that and patrolling that. Over off that S Canal, that fire was gently really backing down to the canal on the road. The crews worked so many days. We got about 4 miles of hose lay in there. So we're ready as that fire just gently backs down to just spray that out. So no plan on firing unless we would have to do a defensive firing, which I don't see that happening, especially with the rain we have. As Caleb mentioned, we do have some point protection strategies, further in where we just can't safely put individuals in. It would just be such long extraction times if something were to happen with an individual in there. But today with that F band, the fire behavior analyst going to checking that rain gauge, we are bringing some fire wrap and some supplies for that lookout, just in case the fire behavior were to pick up. The supplies will be there. It's just putting it on. And we'll keep monitoring that. For the future, we're going to be talking to both Ron and Shane and recommending the next organization that would come to replace us. So we're starting to work on the complexity analysis for that. And we're just waiting to see how much more rain we get this evening before we get that finalized. That's all I have, unless there's any questions for us.
Questions from council?
All right, thanks, guys.
I get 4 miles of fire hose is quite a bit.
So it's a long ways.
I was a fire boss before the incident command teams up in Alaska on a 110,000 acre fire. And I was like 24 years old. And I had 5.5 miles of fire hose laid out on that, protecting Minto Flats community. I thought that was amazing in that country. But
It's in 200-foot segments, right? 100-foot segments. So that's a lot of connections going on.
But you can see how fast things can turn on you when you're protecting communities like in Hawaii and Maui, and a reminder of Paradise in California. So it was a good job keeping our community safe in the Arley Valley and those folks along the base of the Jocko Range. So that's really critical. So appreciate that. Go ahead, Ron.
You can see the quality of these gentlemen that come out too, and the concern or, just the desire, I guess, to protect the tribal resource for the tribes. It's incredible. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron.
Yep, thanks, guys. And then, we'll let these guys go and then we'll, jump to one more fire issue from me and that, if Jennifer can pull up that, request. So we do have a request from, the River Road East, fire team to do a river closure from Perma to, the reservation boundary, which is going to edge match a river closure from the reservation boundary down to the town of Paradise. And I believe their need to do that or their desire to do that is just to minimize floating traffic with dipping out of the river as that fire progresses eastward. That's the general concern is interference with dipping operations and people floating through. Also, they are getting people in rafts and boats basically drifting into the fire and then walking up into the fire, going up and taking photos and that kind of thing. So this is their request. This was, built in the heat of the moment when there was a big desire to put a lot of, water resources in the air. Maybe the rain has changed this a little bit, but maybe not. So anyway, this is we do want to present this to council for a resolution on whether we do want to close the river or not from Perma Bridge down.
Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've watched more than once that rock quarry. They take a water truck down to the Perma Bridge and fill the truck up just for the work that they're doing. And I think they need to be notified. In fact, I thought they should actually get permission from the tribe to even take water out of there.
The boat ramp would still be open, right? But they just can't travel downriver.
Yeah, that would be my understanding is there would be a sign there that you could go upstream, but you couldn't go down from Perma Bridge.
Yeah, it's a little bit of recreational use history for that site. That is the majority of the use at that particular boat ramp at Perma is for those folks coming from Dixon downstream or Sloan's downstream. And it's a pretty small group that go from launch at Perma and go down to the reservation boundary down in Knowles Creek to that next boat ranch, which is closed. So they've closed that the reach of river from the boundary all the way down to the confluence, and then the Clark Fork is closed for recreational boating currently. So the bridge work itself has put a limiting factor on people want to use the boat ramp there. This time of year, we do get some interest from our big game hunters for the sheep hunting, and sometimes they'll scope that by floating the river. But if the Little Money Road is that closed?
Yeah, we're closed from Little Money all the way over to Rainbow Lake.
Yeah.
All that access is closed.
Okay. So as far as the hunters go, as long as the terrestrial landscape is closed, it's not necessary for people to be able to view from the river. They can look from the highway with their scopes from across the river. So it's really kind of probably with the bridge work that's there right now, it's probably, after I thought about it last night, it's probably not a big deal to close the river for most people. So, not a big deal for the request. We're not going to put out too many pike fishermen and smallmouth bass fishermen. They have ample opportunity for the rest of the 60 miles of river upstream to fish for bass. I would entertain a motion to approve the request. Motion by Terry, second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, council. And that's the end of my report.
Yeah. Land lunch. Have a good day.
Land lunch. Yep. Yeah.
We
Jess,
have one more walk-in and that will be an executive.
okay.
Lana and Maylin want to talk to council first.
Okay. We'll move into executive session. Leading the charge here.
Chad is.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, member of council,
wanted to introduce the two newest members. I don't believe that, they've been to council as part of SKMM in the past. And so in the past few months, not that you don't know who Dan is, but Dan is, the new director for, this project, for this contract. And of course, Peyton is an assistant associate, one of the two, assistant project manager. And so, learning and coming up to speed on what it is to complete those projects. And so in the future, as these come to tribal council, you'll see, these folks probably more than me, which is probably in your benefit. But wanted to take a minute to, introduce the two of them to council. Thank you. And then I'll turn it over to John.
Thank you, Chad. Well, good job, Peyton, Dan. Good to see you guys on board with the company there. Yeah, get some good hands there. Cool. Go ahead, John.
Okay, this morning I'm in here for approval of modification on task order 1, task order 12, mod 1 on the powwow grounds in Elmo. And it's for a total of $319,929.95. It's a little bit backwards, but as time permitted, that's how we had to do this one. And then the second one is task order 17. We have 5 paving projects for a total of $417,376. And those areas, the 5 paving projects, are the Clinic Fitness Center area in Elmo, along with the upper parking lot at the hall, Fish and Game compound in the rear, the Longhouse parking lot in St. Ignatius, and Dewar parking lot out at Kicking Horse. And those are the 5 paving projects. We're just looking for approval on them.
Good, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. John, we've asked facilities and maintenance to start working on the access road into the Elmo maintenance building. What's the update on that?
I haven't heard from the roads department because that's who would be under. I think Rick was the one who was going to call Scott on that.
Okay.
So I haven't heard anything.
Right. Is it something that we can add under facility and maintenance just to get it done?
Under SKMM, that would probably in the next year.
Okay.
Cause we did have that easement problem coming in from the east side.
Yeah.
Where the roads department was gonna do that in prior years, but I don't know whatever became of that.
I think this is gonna be one of those issues where we're just gonna continue to go around in circles. And I think, and you have a good idea, you have a good suggestion. Let's just put it under SKMM and let's just get it done.
Unless we come from the south or the north.
Okay. And I think just if we do come in from the north, we'll be able to just get it done under SKMM rather than having to deal with the easement issue.
Okay.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that suggestion.
Yep.
More questions from council? Jennifer?
Thank you, Chairman. I guess I have a question for SKMM about the visitor center that's going to be located in Ravalli, just where that was, and if you guys have had some meetings on that or moved it forward in any way.
I've been a part of one meeting so far with Jordan. I know he's been out for a period of time, but just initial conversations and a lot of questions surrounding who's going to be a part of that, who's going to be housed there. So I think just a lot of those questions to be answered in terms of size, scope, service, who's going to be in there and whatnot. So early conversations regarding that facility in particular.
Just a follow-up question. When's the next meeting going to be held regarding the visitor center? Do you know, or approximately?
Yeah, we met with Jordan. It was probably late July, early August, and he was going to be out for a couple of weeks. So we're probably getting close within the next week or two in terms of reconvening with him and seeing if he's has some of those things flushed out in terms of who's going to be there. Okay.
Any additional questions? This, funding for the paving, John, is all in the budget?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, Martin, to approve the task order 17. Second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? I think it's unanimous. Okay.
And then the modification to 12, which is the Elmo powwow.
We have that document?
It's at the back end. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as John mentioned, this one was backwards, where time was of the essence. And so the first task order was approved at the 15,000, and then all of the tasks were identified. Those tasks were completed, and now we're coming back to organize the dollar and organize the paperwork to finalize.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve mod 1 to task order number 12. Motion by Martin. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous? Go ahead, Martin.
I just had a kind of a question about the Arlee project or the Powwow grounds. I know the paving wasn't done. I assume there's still a lot of work to be done down there that wasn't completed, and where's the or what's the status on that?
You want to take that, or you want me to? Go ahead. Yeah, when they were doing that, there were a few that had to drop off because of the time constraints on making sure that it was complete and cleaned up by the time that the powwow came through. There's actually a number of things, and at the last meeting with Rick and those, the determination was that we needed to get together a 1, 3, and 5 year plans of both powwow grounds in order to ensure that the short-term accomplishments met those long-term goals. And so we were going to come back to in order to, again, so that we wouldn't end up in a time crunch for next year. And so that's the plan is to get with Kyle Felsman is the project manager on that. Get with those stakeholders to ensure what who the stakeholders are. Is it the powwow committees? Is it the cultural committees? Is it the tribal council and or is it facilities and maintenance? It's probably all, and identify those, and so that they can be accomplished without the rush of next year. So we'll be getting back on that and having that answer for you.
Make sure we make the time parameters for utilizing ARPA funding for the powwow grounds. And so that is a limiting factor. A little background, Dan, on the Ravalli Hill project. Tribal Council took action to make a new entrance to the Bison Range and create a location for the Three Chiefs Visitor Center at the top of Ravalli Hill. That action was done back in February of last year. And so it's been sitting idle. We had a funders tour with billionaires a couple weeks ago, which Jordan was on. And it was unfortunate that we didn't have like any conceptual design that we could present to those folks that they could, pique their interest to maybe make donations to help build the facility. So they were there. They saw the ample opportunity and interest that they piqued. So really, I would appreciate the expedited potential for at least some conceptual designs that could be fairly quickly, because it's been disappointing for us to sit here with over 1.5 years and nearly that and not have anything. So appreciate it, Dan. I know you're we'll jump right on it. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could, we've, SKMM and working with John and Rick from the tribe, it's been really good to, and I understand the frustration. And so we've worked towards, as bigger projects come, and that's a big project, in order to understand that we have to chop it into pieces. And so that when a task order and or a contract, same verbiage comes along, that we're going to chew that into, one is that conceptual design and quote, and therefore the tribe on bigger projects has the ability to off ramp more often or at the times it seems appropriate. And so it's not, okay, here is the whole thing, start to finish. And so it gets you the conceptual drawings, it gets the quotes, it gets that step-by-step process that's needed in finalizing that within finalizing that within the groups that we work with is going to be a big help towards what you're looking for. And so I'm actually kind of excited about getting that so that we can see that in action and to see that work.
Thank you, Chad. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So there were a number of long-term goals that we identified for both powwow grounds, okay? And I know this contract here addressed a few of them, but one of the main ones that we should probably look at doing a proposed amendment to this is the construction of the RV sites on the Elmo powwow grounds. We wanted to do at least 15 RV lots as you enter into the powwow grounds. So if we can start that process, because that may take longer than we think, and because I wanted to hopefully have that project done before the next powwow. So if we can maybe meet with the powwow committee and they could help with the planning process. That would be great. Does council agree with that?
Thanks, Len. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Chairman. I have one comment and one question. So my comment for SKMM is I hope that for the visitor center and other projects that you do, that you really make efforts to work with native architects in the design. I just think that's really important as a tribe that we really seek out. There are native architects who I think would be happy to work on this project. I think it'll be a flagship project, flagship building for the tribe and our first point of contact with tourists. It's actually, I think a really important big deal. So anyway, that's my comment for that. And then my question is for John. Have you talked to NRD about their future building needs and where they would like to go in terms of being housed and being located? Have you initiated discussions with them about that?
Which department within NRD are you talking about?
The guys who are located on Main Street.
No, Rich hasn't said anything about that. I know we're working on a Dewar one. The Dewar building would be coming up. It'd be ideal would be to build a one-story tribal health clinic in Polson and give NRD the current clinic. That would be ideal. And then we could get rid of that building they're in, which has outlived its usefulness. That's just ideal, but.
Okay. Anything else? Is that any more comments for SKMM? Gentlemen, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth, I think you're up next.
Okay. Good morning. Run through this real quickly. Hopefully the final modification to FY 23, modification 15. So we're doing some reallocation in general fund, both increase and decrease, net change of 0. And then increases to the compacts, contracts, and grants. It looks like it's a huge increase. It's actually just catching up our ARPA program spending in Fund 4. Most of that rests in the government services. So in that center column, the increase in compacts, contracts, and grants, 43.7 million is attributed to ARPA budgets being posted for the expense incurred. Additional awards in self-governance for health and human services, and then also in natural resources, education, law enforcement, and forestry, making that total increase to 47.7 million. And then total allocation is going to increase to 350 million. 350,509,696.
Any questions? A motion by Martin to approve budget mod number 15, second by Mike. Any further questions? Discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous. Ruth, there was one question that Mike brought up
Yes, sir.
On Monday. And that was, when we talk about new buildings, we talk about the potential for direct funding from BIA instead of the indirect allocation. Is it, which would be a better way of like building a new building? Can we just, is that a better way to go?
That's a very good question. But unfortunately, it's not a simple answer.
I know.
Kind of like depends. We certainly should explore the opportunity to get the lease income, lease funding for the facilities we've already built and that our programs are occupying. So this is a good example. The lands department, which is wholly funded in BIA, also individual Indian money accounts. So the space that they occupy, we can recoup the cost of lease, and the Bureau would fund that for us. The same in health facilities, buildings that we've constructed and own or that we presently occupy, like the old hospital in St. Ignatius, the clinic in Polson, virtually all the structures. So we could be getting lease payments for those. If we were to build and construct a building, the same thing. Brand new buildings, there's a way that you can recoup some of your principal and interest. If you
Is
have
there,
a loan.
do they have money for actually building it?
No.
Okay.
Not, I mean, that is like one of the hardest things to come by in Indian Health. It's the way that they do their facilities, need. This reservation has never, and I use a capital N on the never, has never been priority for a facility. The reason for that is just simple history. We've always had a non-Indian presence here at a private sector that could provide healthcare. So we've always been in a purchased healthcare mode, and they would not rate us high enough to get a hospital or clinic constructed, as you see at other reservations. The real downfall to IHS not building our facilities is if they did build it, then they would give us funding to staff and equip it. So when we build them, it's still upon us to continue that staffing and equipping and maintenance costs. That's why, you know, kind of the cautionary tales, we can build as far as we have resources, but how do we keep it going with the funding that's in place? So IHS is a bit more prescriptive in how they will qualify facilities for lease. BIA, there's quite a bit more flexibility, especially in something like, say, law enforcement. They don't sit and try to slot us into a prescribed format. Really depends on, you know, what scope and level we are running at. Social services, that horrid building across the street, and I did use that word, that yellow building, that's how old. They certainly should fit into a little different setup than that. Natural resources programs, like lands, forestry, all of NRD, they all fit within that. Rick has asked me to give him kind of some estimated square feet, the programs, the number of folks involved. And BIA alone would occupy, you know, probably 50,000-60,000 square feet in total. Total programs, total folks that we employ to do all of that. So, yes, if we are going to be letting go of some of the costs that we're now funding through indirect, so an indirect cost, when all of those programs are incurring their operating expenses, like their salaries and operating, then indirect then is assessed on that, and that goes in indirect cost pool to fund the indirect cost pool programs. Maintenance is the biggest one in there. And so if a program was paying, say, 50,000 a year in indirect, probably half of that could be attributed to facilities maintenance. So it'd be the custodial effort and the utilities. It doesn't fund construction or improvement though. You don't use indirect cost assessment for that. So there's trade-offs. We would see kind of some lessening of that indirect cost allocable funding because it'd be switching over to the lease payments that we would get, and you're required to put portions of the lease receipts into like a reserve so that you can keep up the facility and keep it in service for what you're doing. So it is a process. The good news, if we were to give notice to either of the agencies, say today officially, we want to enter into lease process or negotiation. Once we execute the lease, it goes back to the date that we proposed to go into the agreement. So it's always kind of you can go forward, but you don't actually get settled up until a little later. The one reason why you ask, well, we've had these programs for decades, neither Interior nor IHS was effectively funding that. And so the number of leases tribes did enter into was pretty small. But since what they call the Section 105 leasing has actually been set up with appropriations that are actually set up and aside from program level funding, I think both agencies are seeing a lot of increase in tribes seeking those lease arrangements now. There's actually funding for them. So.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Teresa, you're up next. Thank you for being quick. No, just joking. Ahead of time. Then push the button on your mic, please. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, council members. I am here today to ask for your approval of 2 power confirmation agreements for Mission Valley Power with EKI. And we did this not long ago, and these are agreements that have to be adopted. And the reason they have to be adopted is because these agreements allow us to serve the irrigation load, and which is an important part of your Flathead Water Compact. So in order to continue to serve the irrigation pumps and provide the irrigation low-cost block, these 2 agreements have to be adopted. They have been looked at from a legal standpoint for the terminology in the agreement, and the costs in the agreement have been verified. So the document in front of you is approved and by legal and finance. The first confirm is for a delivery period of September 5, 2023 through October 31, 2023. And this was the one where when I submitted my agenda request, I said it was kind of an emergency request because EKI has to go out on the power system and make a reservation for this power during this period before Labor Day weekend. So the first one I would like to ask you to approve is the commitment for the period of September 5th, 2023 through October 31, 2023.
Motion by Martin. Second by Mike. Any further discussion, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous?
If you remember too, last time we talked about these, now I'm on page number 47. The last time we talked about these, you had the utility board here and Brian Lipscomb with EKI. And at that time, what we were concentrating on was this charge, the transmission charge, because that is a charge that Mission Valley Power has not had to pay previously, and that is the Northwestern Energy Transmission System charge. And EKI is simply passing that off to MVP. And at some point in the future, you will probably see us coming back maybe with Michael Wheeler and Ryan Rushi to determine ultimately who should pay that charge in the long term. So there is some legal analysis being done on that. But in the meantime, Mission Valley Power is paying that charge because we have to have this energy in order to serve the flathead pumps. So this is a cost of doing business, continuing to provide that energy. And then your second commitment or confirmation is for the delivery period of April 1, 2024 through September 4, 2024. And so we would ask for your approval on that second confirmation.
Motion by Martin. Second by Mike. Any further discussion and questions? See none, all those in favor? You okay, Lynn? Yeah. Unanimous? Thank you. Sure. Thank you. But I want to sign them and date them.
Mr. Chair, this is Mike Wheeler. I just wanted to thank Teresa for her very clear and concise explanation of the agreements and also the wheeling charge that we previously discussed with council. We're hoping to find an option to shift that burden off MVP, but there's several considerations in play, and I think Teresa and I have an idea that we'll want to follow up on that we spoke about yesterday. But we'll inform you when we're closer to the completion of that idea.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Council.
All right. Thank you. All right, next we have the Forest Service. They're all waiting patiently out there. Good morning, everybody. You have to push, there's a button there, you get red light on your mic.
Yeah, I was just walking them through that, Mr. Chairman. So Ryan is down here, Ryan Powell, Heritage, Cultural Manager for, Flathead National Forest, top shelf guy. We've done a lot of work with him. We have good history and good relationship. He's brought the acting forest supervisor down, Carol, and he's gonna do some intros and talk about, just meet and greet, keep contact, keep consultation and communication, and then talk about a few projects that they might have that we could partner up with. Tony here, who can sort of our main guy on this stuff too. So I'll just turn it over to them. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Good morning, Chairman McDonald, council members. Last time you saw the Flathead National Forest was last year. We came before you and just had some discussions and talked about the want and the desire to meet more regularly and collaborate a little more in depth. And we decided that and kind of an annual visit was probably the minimum we could do to come in front of you and present some of our program of work and have some open discussion and dialogue on things that are important to the forest and things that are important to the tribe. So we made that opportunity to get here today. I brought Carol Hatfield, who's the acting forest supervisor, Marcus Chin, our timber management officer, and Tad Wehunt, our partnership coordinator. So I'll let them do some introductions or just turn it over to Carol.
Thank you, Ryan. I remember, Ryan, we wanted some field trips too, if we could.
We did them on field trips. I have not forgotten.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for having us. Is this on? Oh, right here.
More direct.
Sorry, I'll get it. Thanks for having us today. We are here just to talk a little bit about what's happening with our leadership, our partnerships, and would also like to discuss Good Neighbor Authority opportunities with you all. Just real briefly, just to let you know where we're at regarding the forest supervisor position. So I'm in it until the end of October 31st or November 1st, somewhere around there. And they're hoping to have it advertised by then. Most likely will not have it filled for another month or so after that. So you're kind of stuck with me for a bit. And I'm enjoying it. We also have filled the Spotted Bear District Ranger position. We're negotiating a start date for that person. And then once that has happened, we will announce who that is. And then we have Tammy McKenzie, who is our Deputy Forest Supervisor. She's been here for quite some time. I'm sure you all have met her, but she will continue in her role as the deputy as well. And I will turn it over to Tad and Marcus for partnerships.
Well, good morning and thank you again. Again, my name is Tad Wehunt. I started in this role as Forest Partnership Coordinator at right about the beginning of this year. And it's a little bit of a evolving position, but essentially there's a renewed effort within the region and nationally within the Forest Service, standing up more of these partnership positions, just to add some capacity for some of that relationship building, conduit of information, being another person, not so much diving into day-to-day operations and that kind of thing. So so far, a lot of, and we have a partnership trainee. So there's this two-person shop, so to speak, and done a lot of work with our program managers like Ryan and Marcus, and doing a lot of support, kind of behind the scenes, and then also just looking and being aware of what opportunities are out there. And, if there's new partnerships or expanding and building on existing partnerships, we're here to help. We've got capacity and some time to dig into some things that maybe the program managers are kind of little too busy kind of thing. So it's a really cool, fun position thus far, having that flexibility, getting to meet and know some folks. And quite frankly, we're here to listen and we're here to learn. And that's pretty fun too. So thank you.
Good morning, and I also thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak with you all. As Ryan mentioned, my name is Marcus Chin. I'm the Timber Management Officer for the Flathead National Forest. And I'm also the GNA point of contact for the forest, and I've been in the position now for about 2 years. And as I mentioned, I'm the forest main point of contact for GNA, and to date, we've been engaging with the Montana DNRC, and we've had great success with that. And we look forward to exploring opportunities to partner with the tribe to figure out how we can partner together using GNA. And so we look forward to talking with you all about that. As you are aware, I believe, our regional office is currently working on a region-wide GNA agreement. And so that's at the regional level, and we've started thinking about how we can engage at the forest level with you locally, and what kind of projects might be good. And so some of the things that we would like to talk about are projects that you may be interested in engaging in, and the capacity that you may have for GNA type of projects. And so that's some of the conversation that we're hoping to have. So again, thank you.
Well, Carol and Marcus and Tad, good to meet you all. If I hadn't already met you before, I'm just trying to remember. You look familiar for some reason. I don't know, but again, thank you for coming down. And communication is real critical, and that's the footprint or the foundation for us and how we might explore good neighbor agreements, and how we can collaborate, how we can use our expertise that we have that might excel or be additive to the expertise that the Forest Service has as land stewards. But as you well know, we have a protectable interest in all the forests surrounding our reservation and in our Aboriginal territory, especially. And so we're after maintaining our treaty rights is paramount for us, and our restoring our connection to the landscape is a key element to that. And so as we look towards the increased pressure of resources with climate change effects, with population increases, especially in the areas of Western Montana, the Flathead National Forest, the Lolo, the Bitterroot, we become increasingly concerned about maintaining and protecting our treaty rights and those resources. As we think about climate change effects that we're also facing right now. I mean, record low water flows, with the Flathead River being 30% of normal. I mean, my gosh, that has never happened in my lifetime. So when you think about those kind of impacts, especially for resources like bull trout that are a key species for us that sustained our people for a millennia when other food sources were missing. How do we maintain those bull trout? How do we make resiliency? And I got to say, the Flathead Forest has been pretty good as we listed bull trout. The population in Flathead Lake caused the listing of bull trout. We were looking at how can we protect the habitat that the bull trout is using, and the forest has been a pretty good partner with that. How we can make sure we maintain that clean, cold, complex, connected streams for bull trout. But as we face these kind of record flows in the fall, we were talking about a fall spawner. We need to probably extract even more than what we were doing before, because before we were just trying to deal with an invasive species of lake trout as the bottleneck, and the habitat you were providing for the forest stewardship was pretty good. But now we have to go a step farther. So we're going to have to think outside the box and how we deal with it and maintain bull trout on the landscape. That goes with all the species that were considered that are important for the tribes. But we do not want to be able to not increase our presence on the landscape. So being able to have our folks go to places that they haven't been going, that's been maybe lost for a generation or two, how we reestablish that connectiveness, how we put place names back on the landscape, those are both very powerful things for our people. And they should be powerful things for the entire community, because the traditional knowledge that the tribes can offer and can revisit or remember as time persists and we're on the landscape in greater numbers and more frequency, that should be additive to our stewardship and how we manage the land. Because we can learn from the indigenous people who have been here for 10,000 years. And so there's innate knowledge that can be brought forward. And so anything you do to help, our persistence on the landscape, because we're just a fraction of the people, the human beings that are visiting your forest that you're responsible for. And we take our responsibility very serious for that forest. And we want to make sure that our access and the resources that we've utilized and the cultural connection to the landscape and uses are present for in perpetuity. So it's a lot to ask for, but that's what we've been doing for a millennia. So just appreciate you being here. So that's when I say field trips, communication. It's really paramount for us to be able to be intimate with your management and how we can be additive to it. We excel in stream restoration. We excel in doing things with very little resources. That's always been the tribe's footprint. So we never had the same resources that the Forest Service has for our stewardship and at least timber management and other resources. So there is examples of our management that would help out the Forest Service in shrinking budgets or added responsibilities. Just digging into those and being able to share those in a very particular way. Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if I have my information correct, and maybe you can speak to it, but thought there was a logging proposal in the Bitterroot, is it Mud Creek, that might impact bull trout. I didn't know if you could speak to that.
I've heard of that project. I'm not sure what the status of it is. I could definitely check in on that and get back to you all. With it being over on the Bitterroot, I'm just not familiar with it.
Brian?
The logging type projects, is that something that the council members or anybody would be interested in participating in field trips? Because that's one of, last year, the Forest Service introduced and I don't know if this looks familiar to anybody, but this is the Tribal Relations Action Plan, and consult with the Biden administration. But we've been incorporating these ideas into our management. And one of the main ideas is that collaboration, that bringing tribes in at the early stages of planning, not just saying, here's a map, how do you feel about this project? It's more, how do you incorporate that traditional ecological knowledge into this project to make things, what would you like to see out there? That's co-stewardship and getting a bigger perspective than our perspective on how a project should be done. And so I'm kind of thinking field trip opportunities.
Absolutely. Ryan, it brings up the point that when we were talking about, the good neighbor agreements, and I was reviewing the Nez Perce and what they were doing down there, but then we were trying to restart our relationship with the Kootenai National Forest. It's when I'm looking back here at one of our staff persons in the back, and she works really hard at what she does. And so one of the issues is there's so much information out there and there's so much to see. It was really important for me to try to advocate for positions that would be tribal employees that could be feathered out into all the different forests and be able to gather that information and be that would be a tribal employee that would be funded under the Good Neighbor Authority if possible, that we'd be able to really step up our participation. We are limited by the number of staff people that we have. And to say that the protectable interests that we have or concern that we have for the Flathead Forest compared to the Deer Lodge Forest or the Bitterroot, or it's all equal in my mind because our footprint is everywhere. And the same concerns are repetitive on a lot of the forests, but being able to have that hands on the ground, eyes is difficult for even one person to try to grasp and entertain or provide adequate input. But indeed, yes, But whether we have the resources to be able or the time to be able to do that, I don't know. Tony?
It is, I had to check my watch. It is morning still. Good morning. Tony Kishola, Tribal Resource Management. I oversee forestry, wildlife, NRD, both culture committees, preservation office, and the tribal lands department. So, but we've been in conversations, we have with the new, secretarial order and tribal consultation. There's been a lot more asked of the tribes of consultation and cooperation and coordination, and GNA especially is a big subject. You did touch upon, we are doing a master agreement with the region to do GNA, so we can do smaller projects underneath that GNA with separate forest. That is, as far as yesterday, that one is in its final review, I believe, and should be in time, hopefully before Undersecretary Wilkes and Chief Forester Moore will be visiting us next week. Then we are also in a position cost share agreement for funding a tribal relations specialist to be housed here. And so a lot of these asks, a lot of these coordination efforts, we want to have that funded position through GNA to start helping coordinate and communicating these efforts with our internal staff. As Chair did say, we do have limited capacity in that sense, that we are getting pulled multiple different ways, and we do want to make sure we are at the table on multiple different forests at the same time. But we do want to see, long answer to your question too. We do want to go on field trips with timber sale management activities, and we do want to see what tasks, what operations you guys are doing. We do want to be involved, a seat at the table, as opposed to here's the final plan, here, yes or no, check the box. How that comes to fruition yet, I'm not sure, but we do, the best way to start that is just communication now. And Katie has worked with your guys' forest quite a bit. Steve McDonald is here. He's our acting forest manager. And he's starting to get into those tasks of different forests also. So funding a position at each forest is the optimal route in my eyes, definitely. But GNA opens a door for a wide variety of activities, including stream restoration to timber management and different levels of each management. So we are definitely open for the conversation to how we want a partnership moving forward, and GNA just gives us that tool to be able to strengthen that partnership and help with the funding of that partnership. So thank you for coming.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. I think that's pretty enlightening, and that's exactly kind of what we wanted to hear. Is basically put face to a name, meet people, open those doors, because hearing that is exactly where I think we want to be and where we want to go. So yeah, definitely appreciate you giving that information.
One of the important things when we talk about climate change and when I first started working for the tribes and I quit working for BLM, we inherited a landscape here that was heavily impacted by an irrigation project. So we had streams that were minimum flows or completely dewatered. So it was like we were stepping into the worst case scenario into the future with droughts and mega droughts, et cetera. And so we were planning for, how could we make this better? How could we return water into the streams or increase flows? How could we rebuild populations and stuff? And so a lot of our actions were simply those type of actions that are kind of playing out for other agencies and land resource managers into the future. We've already been there and done that. And so there's a lot of recipes there. But one of the critical things for species of concern for us is to have larger populations, so we have more resiliency. So we have a better chance to withstand with the unknowns that are coming, whether it's the 500-year flood that's going to come in the Flathead here in the probably still my lifetime, or it's even a worse drought that's coming ahead. Or other factors, mega forest fires or whatever it might be. So having more resiliency for species of concern are really important for us. And then maintaining our access. Again, I'll repeat that again because of the sheer pressures for outdoor recreation on the landscape can sometimes displace hunting and gathering and fishing. And so we believe that our rights are paramount and far above other uses on the landscape. And so we would appreciate the forest always maintaining that level. So if there's a choice between user groups, we want to make sure our access is always there and provided for it. And it's probably, if you're providing for that continued access to bull trout fishing holes or a place where grizzly bears can tread on the landscape, you're probably doing good stewardship. And that leads right into the access for our tribal members and their treaty rights. So,
thank you for that. And it's a great reminder. And one of the items that came into my head, because I'm still learning the forest and getting to know what projects we're working on, is the river management plan. And I don't know if we've reached out to the tribe to get feedback, input, whatever. And so that will be on my agenda that I'll take back to the forest as well as the park, Glacier Park, because we're in the beginning stages of reviewing that and determining capacity and I guess working with the park because they have they have different thoughts than the Forest Service, but I think we need to get you all involved as well. So that will be something important to do in the next few months.
appreciate that, Carol. It's a collective, it's cumulative impacts, and what Glacier Park does with visitation has ramifications for visitation on the Flathead Forest. It has ramifications for visitation here on the Flathead Indian Reservation. So, yeah, there is a carrying capacity, and there's carrying capacity when you talk about certain historical uses and activities on the landscape. So, we certainly want to be part of that and appreciate that. Any other comments from council?
Any stories you heard about the Flathead Valley that we need to squash any rumors?
Well, if you can help us invade Canada and stop tech mining, that would be good. I don't have anything else.
Yeah. And
Katie? So there's one more McDonald. We're like, you stand outside and throw a rock, you're gonna hit a McDonald, okay? Just so you know.
Thank you, Chairman McDonald. We're talking about, being out back on these landscapes, stewardship. Ryan hears it all the time when I talk with him, is that I get pretty excited about thinking about locations where my ultimate goal is with preservation and getting tribal members back out exercising their treaty rights is we've got the medicine tree down in the Bitterroot National Forest, and that is so special to us that each location, each forest surrounding our reservation, that's Aboriginal territory. There's our special locations where I would hope that through continued consultation, conversations with our elders, finding out those specific locations where we would want to push and continue to exercise the Aboriginal territory right, where we could have those encampments. We can have, those days where we're there for an expanded long time where locations of the forest are blocked off from the general public so that tribal members can go out there and whether it's recreating, whether it's, fishing, things like that. And it's conversations that I've had with Ryan where, that's definitely the push from preservation is making sure that we have those opportunities, finding those locations, seeing if that's something that we would even want to share with the National Forest, the Forest Service. So Definitely a good push. Something that I want to continue to have that conversation is where can we find these locations and make that top priority? While also keeping in consideration is archaeology, of course. Of course. But that's my 2 cents to the meeting
Thank you,
there.
Katie.
Yeah,
That-
thank you.
That's a great topic. I know, years ago, Michael Jameson, some of you might know Michael Jameson, but, he's with the National Parks Association. He used to be well, he still is a good journalist and he's a good partner for us in a lot of things considered. And, he had proposed that we have, a large encampment up in the North Fork or, somewhere up there, where we could revisit and think about that and do exactly what Katie's talking about. Getting our people out on a landscape is really important and that heightens the place names, it heightens the connection for people and it also really broadens the horizons and the knowledge base of other participants that might be there, the local communities and other resource managers. So it's really a good idea, and we really want to make sure that we continue to do that. So that's great, Katie, you brought that up. Thank you. Any other things with council? No. I can't think of anything that you need to squish as far as rumors.
No, that's fine. So perhaps maybe we can jump into a couple of more specific ideas that are kind of floating around our office right now that
That'd be great.
you might be able to answer some questions. One of them being with our partnership group is a community wood bank. And basically we're kind of searching to see if there's a need for a supply of field wood. Understanding that you guys accumulate your own small diameter timber industry. How can we coordinate and collaborate to maybe provide access to some of the small diameter wood debris that currently stands unused and mostly gets burned up in slash piles? Could that be usable field wood? How can we partner with the tribe to get it where it needs to go? Is that need here, and is there maybe capacity for staffing a wood yard? I'll turn it over to Tad, who can talk a little bit about a program called Wood for Life. It's we partner with the National Forest Foundation, NFF, and they do the Wood for Life program in other parts of the West, but we don't have it here currently. So that is one thing we are exploring. Tad, I don't know if you want to maybe talk about that a bit.
A little bit more, but yeah, I'll give you some time to answer that question. I mean,
well,
do you guys...
Ryan, yeah, absolutely. So many of our households rely on firewood for heating source. It's imperative. We do have a couple of different programs, and Tony or Steve can talk to that. But it's a critical service that we try to provide our community, especially low income and especially our elders, but provide firewood for them. So go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, that'd be a great opportunity to look at something that we can partnership there. Based on a few factors. Are you talking strictly on slash piles or more of pulp wood that you're hauling off site? We have done in the past years, we've used our pulp or dry wood that we found or firewood that we found and hauled it to an on-site here where tribal members can process it up and deliver it to tribal members or our tribal elders. If there's an agreement we can work out or some sort of transportation of that product, that would be very useful for our LEAP and our elder program here.
So you do have a kind of a centralized location that if we could get materials down to there, you could process?
Yeah, I'd say yes. It's not a very big location, but we definitely can find a location if there is product available. Yes.
Thank you, Tony. Indeed. Yeah. Go ahead, Tad.
Yeah, I think we're still kind of in the info gathering phase as well, and maybe this isn't the right place to get into the specifics. But we'll definitely can continue to chase these with the National Forest Foundation in conjunction with the right folks here as well. But yeah, I think we're all doing our homework and learning the ins and outs and what can be subsidized transportation to and you know the different kind of support networks that are available to help.
I didn't
pull this
know
off.
the National Forest Foundation had a program they were funding like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we're still kind of growing our relationship with them as well. Still relatively new up in this part of the country, like Ryan was saying, very, very big and entrenched, Southwest, East Coast, that kind of thing. So another fun one that it's been in the works here for several months. So
That reminds me that they've been a critical partner for us in our Mission Mountain youth crew. So that's, you know, if we can expand those partnerships with the forest, getting youth out, you know, in any way, shape or form, that's really, really important to be able to have that experience, that work experience, that exposure to the landscape, with all resource professionals. It's a great influential time for those young teenagers and youth. So it's really important.
and we couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's been a fun thing. We've my background is more in the recreation realm, so I'm learning. Marcus has been very patient with me in the timber management side of things, and Ryan with the archaeology and heritage side of things. So it's been great. But comparable program with our youth conservation corps, it's been just fantastic to watch the Mission Mountain Youth Crew kind of develop over the last couple of years and interacting them with the youth crew on the forest as well. So yes, it's very interested in watching that, and it's fun to see those relationships that kind of spurring out of that, whether it's Mark Ruby, our forest wildlife biologist, coming down and doing the bear safety talk and interacting with the wildlife bios down here, and just again that mixing of you know the specialists with everybody. So it's just kind of it's going to be fun to watch that build and grow. We'll say that.
Yeah, it's a great segue that I'd like to brag about the Mission Mountain Youth Crew a little bit too. We just completed our third year, another great year, and just to compliment how we're taking it to heart is last year we did fund the Mission Mountain Youth Crew with retained receipts from timber, and we are again next year. So we're happy to report that we're able to help out the crew that's helping us so much. We learn as much from those youth, and we're hoping they're taking something from us as well, but we're learning from them at the same time. And so they did some great work. We've moved some field wood. We did some great work in the Swan. We took them up to the top of Big Mountain on the resort, and it was just, I've never ridden the gondola, the lift up there, and a lot of the kids, you know, it was just a super great opportunity, and really appreciate the forest taking ownership in that group of kids and being willing to, you know, provide those resource specialists to get out there and interact with those kids. So we're looking forward to doing big things in the coming years with that group as well. We spent probably 3 days interacting with the YCC kids, who are the non-tribal members of the Flathead, same type of group set up, having them interact out there in the woods doing different projects. It was really good. So it was very enjoyable. So thank you for mentioning that.
Well, it's so important to make that like a permanent thing, because so many times we've had youth programs and they're soft money and they disappear, and so, you know, if you can help identify solid funding sources and using your receipts, that's great. That helps make it solid. So I appreciate that. Thank you. The gondola reminded me of a request that came in. And so Mike and Katie Shop are aware of it, but there was a request on a tentative one from the main Glacier Park area Canadian business, where they want to put a gondola from Hungry Horse up to the mountain there, a gondola ride. And so it's in the tentative planning, you know, kind of just exploratory procedures. And you know anything about that one, Ryan?
I'm going to deflect right here to this.
Okay,
right here this way.
That's a really good question, and I just found out about that. And Kurt Still, the previous force supervisor, did send a letter back in, I think it was April, to that company, letting them know that it does not meet any of our forest plan standards, and we rejected the proposal.
Okay. Well, that's not exactly what they said, but okay, that's good.
Yeah, I think they're starting to lobby, because I did get a call from Senator Tester's office about it, and they were not aware that the letter had went out, so they have been informed now, and so we'll see where that leads us. But right now, we're not going to entertain any proposals.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good rumor to squash.
Okay. Katie, you take that back to Mike, will you? Tony, you have something?
No, I'll just invite these guys to come to the conference room next door here, and we could exchange contacts with forest management and preservation office, and kind of touch base there, and how we want to take steps moving forward here.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate you being willing to entertain our conversation and dialogue, and look forward to continuing discussions. And our doors and emails are always open.
Thanks, Ryan. Good to see you again. Good to meet everybody, and keep up the good work. Thank you. Carol?
Thank you. And again, thanks for having us. And I guess I will see you next week when the chief and the undersecretary is out.
Yeah, I'll see you on Wednesday morning, probably. Huh?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Jen?
So Velda wanted to know for the mid-year shareholder meeting, if you guys were available September 14th or September 21st. It'll be at Quatucknut like you guys did last year, where it was kind of all day and then lunch and then the afternoon session. Or other dates, those are just what she was throwing out there right now.
September 14th?
Yep.
A Thursday?
Yep.
Yeah, that works for me. On a council day. The next week, whatever, anytime after that doesn't work for me. They want to do it on Wednesday?
Whatever you guys decided on.
Oh,
But those were the two dates that she threw out. So if it was on a council day, it was on a council day. I was just checking with you guys.
it's okay with me, unless you have other business. Yeah.
Yeah, because they'll have all your,
14th
okay, I'll let her know that date.
in the morning. Is it
The all day, remember, they go through.
morning,
KPI.
lunch, and
Yeah.
early afternoon? Wraps up around
Yep.
2-ish, 2:30? 1:30, right after lunch. Okay, thank you. Anything else before we? Geez, we're back ahead of schedule now. Wow. Just think if I wouldn't have said anything, we'd be another 20 minutes early. Yeah. Back at 1? All right, we'll break for lunch. Thank you, everybody.
Were there hunters present? And did the council know who was involved? the reasoning behind the changes and the decrease in the bison harvests. Why such strict rules for elders and hunters? What are the outcomes the tribes are looking for? Won't the likely outcome be vastly decreased or decrease hunters due to the expense of the hunt, one bison, and the decreased access for meat for the elders and the members? So that's questions from a concerned member that was emailed me today. I had a lot of stuff written up. And excuse me, because I'm a little tired. I woke up in the middle of the night last night. This and actually I was hoping that we could go into executive and people here for the bison, if they could stay for a minute. Which one? Anybody here that was here for the bison